Good afternoon. This is Rev Carolyn of the Louisville Center for Spiritual Living. Welcome this afternoon. I am going to be making a video, a little bit of what we did last Sunday and talk to you about what's coming up. So very quickly on the 22nd, which is a Sunday, some of us are going to go to O'Shea's restaurant. It's a lovely little place. Serves good food, variety of food, and it's just like a block and a half down the road. So if you want to join us and get to know some of us a little bit better, come that Sunday and go to O'Shea's with us. And then the next Sunday is the 29th of September, sorry, lost a month there. And that will be Brent Ousel, who will be our speaker on that day. I just got back from a trip to Monterey, California, to the Monterey Peninsula, to be exact. It is an incredibly lovely place, and it's not in the normal sense of the word. There are no groomed lawns or any of that, but you can sit and look in the pine trees and all, and in the afternoon, you'll see deer, and they'll be walking along, whole families of them. And I know there are other things there, but the only thing I've ever seen was one rabbit and deer. And if you walk out on the boardwalk, you see the Pacific Ocean. Having the ocean so close keeps the weather right there very even. I know that it gets hot and I know that it gets cold, but most of the time it stays within 60, 70, sometimes down into 50. And that's what it was this time when I went. And so it's not real cool, but it's certainly not as hot as it is here in Louisville today. Tammy and I went together. I had been talking about Asilomar for years and years. I didn't realize that in 2012 was the last year that we met there. That was the year that they decided that we couldn't afford it, and they started moving the annual conference for the Centers for Spiritual Living in different places. And that has worked for some. Some have been very grateful when it came up in Florida and other places across the United States. And those that had been at Asilomar, some of us year after year after year, we missed it. There's something very unique about Asilomar, partly because we know that Ernest Holmes strolled around all those buildings and all those trails himself. They started going, I believe, in 1958, may have been 57. And then in 1960, Ernest made his transition. So there were only a few years that he was there. The group came to him and said, "We want to do a retreat." He said, "I will never retreat. I only go forward. So I will do a forward with you." I love that story because it shows the mindset of Ernest Holmes. Always forward, always moving to a greater expression of the spirit that we are. The speakers, golly, lots of wonderful, wonderful speakers. Reverend Dr. Ken Gordon is the spiritual leader for our organization and has been for the last several years. He has 6 more months on his double term, and then he will be retiring from that position. He and his wife share the ministry in Cologne, Canada. And so he will be going back and giving 100% to his center versus having been really consumed with being the spiritual director of CSL. He is one of the most delightful men. I love hearing him. I cannot hear him too often. He shared, they really focused on Asilomar in the beginning. And he shared that when he would, probably 20 years ago, 19, 20 years ago, a friend of his told him that he had to go to this little church. Well, he wasn't going to go. But his daughter came to him soon afterwards and said, "Dad, why don't we have a church? Why don't we go to church?" And Ken looked at his wife and she looked at him like, "Well," and so they decided that they would explore different churches, different places of worship around the area. And so he mentioned this little place, and they decided to go there first. And it was so different. The message was different from anything he had ever heard about how we create our own lives, how we are spirit and expression, and so forth. So they went for about 3 Sundays. And then they started being pushed to go to Asilomar. Well, they didn't know anything about Asilomar. And they were like, why would we want to do that? And then they told them how much it cost to stay for a week on the ocean. And he was like, that's kind of a cheap vacation. We can ignore all the meetings. We don't have to go to that. We can just go and enjoy being in the Monterey Peninsula and the Pacific Ocean. He was a farmer at that time, made all the arrangements, and off they went. They did not miss one meeting. They made them all. They were just overwhelmed with the feeling and the presence that they felt at Asilomar. The music has always been important to all of us because it shares the message in a way that we take it home with us. And so he listened to all the music, wasn't musically inclined, still is not. But he loved that. He loved the speakers. He loved what they were saying. And so they never looked anywhere else. His daughter and son loved being there on Sunday mornings, and at Asilomar there was a youth program, and they participated in that. And he and his wife gave themselves totally to understanding it. After a while, he got into practitioner studies and ministerial studies and became a minister. And they decided to open a center in Canada. So they sold the farm and moved to Canada. And they've been there ever since. Very successful, very well respected in so many ways, not only in what they've accomplished, but in who they are as people. Kind, loving, seeing the Spirit in each of us. So to hear him speak was just a delight. He has something, Tammy and I went to Florida years back, and that's the first time that she had met Ken Gordon, and he stood up on the platform and he said, I believe in God and nothing else. Tammy was blown away, and so was I. And it's true. I believe in God and nothing else. There is nothing outside of Spirit. There is nothing that can destroy who we are, Spirit. God is all we need to believe in. One of the other speakers had a sentence that said, the divine can never be taken from you. Your divinity can never be broken or taken from you. You are Spirit in expression, whether you know it or not, whether you see it or not, whether you accept it or not. That's what you are. And as we move into knowing that more and more and more, we express it more clearly in the world that we live in. And we affect the entire world with our love, with our expectation of good, and knowing that all things work together for the full expression of Spirit, whether in our individual lives or in the life of our city, our county, our state, our nation. Spirit is, and we are. I believe in God and nothing else. Blessings to you and to all that you hold dear. Blessings to you to become more and more aware of who you truly are. And blessings to you to feel the love that is swimming around you and through you constantly. Thank you for joining me today. I appreciate it, and I hope that you've gotten encouragement from it. And hopefully I'll see you next week. This is Reverend Carolyn. Goodbye for now.
Okay, awesome. That was good. I hadn't heard that story about Ken.
Oh, really?
No.
Oh, cool. Cool, I'm
If I
glad.
had, I'd forgotten.
Yeah, I may have to share that with others too.
Yep.
I have to look up some detail and make sure I get all my details quite right.
Yep.
But
Okay, are we good? So I'm going to stop the recording. Are
yes.
you good with that? Okay.
Yes,
We're
I'm
stopping
good.
now.